look at the bank statement and how to reconcile that. Several of you have been exposed to this already last year. I know that's a long time ago for you to remember, so we're going to go over this, make sure you're comfortable with it. This is part of the control system when we talk about and look at internal controls, making sure we have control over certain things, processes, and making sure things are secure. I want to make sure we're able to keep track of our cash and make sure that we have a system for securing our cash and keeping track of it correctly. So the bank keeps track of our cash, but we also keep track of our cash. We need to make sure that us and the bank are on the same page. So really reconciling a bank statement, what it comes down to is making sure that us, our end of things, our record keeping, and the bank, their end of things, their record keeping, are in agreement with the numbers, with everything that has happened during the period for which we're reconciling. Typically, it's a 1-month period. So we look at our records and see what our records have to say, and that's located in the checkbook or the check register. And then we look at the bank's records, what the bank has recorded and on record for us and our transactions in relation to cash for the month. And that comes once a month in the bank statement that's sent to us, snail mail, email, or however our bank gives that to us. All right. So when we think about the things that go on, we think about us as a company going through our records, entering data in, but there are things that we don't know is happening that the bank side is putting into place. There are things that the bank knows about that we don't know about. And what we have to do on our end is make that adjustment of adding the things that the bank added in that we didn't know about and subtracting the things out that the bank subtracted out that we didn't know about. Then on the flip side of it, there are things that we do throughout the month that the bank doesn't necessarily find out about right away. And when they send us that bank statement, they may not have recorded it on the bank statement because they hadn't found out about it yet. But we recorded it because we knew about it in real time, and there's some lag or delay in the bank finding out about it. So we have to figure out what the bank does not know and then adjust. And that's what reconciling the bank statement is. It's just those two things, figuring out, okay, as of this date, here's what we have for our information for the last month. Here's what the bank has for information for the last month. What are we missing that the bank has? What is the bank missing that we have? And we just make those adjustments, and it's that simple. It's kind of an overwhelming topic, but it's really not that difficult. The memory cue that we're going to use for this is C-Send-O. And that's a memory cue that I came across several years ago from another accounting teacher, a professor out at UConn, and it's a great memory cue. The C is going to be, and we are going to be on the left side, the bank's going to be on the right side. The way you remember that is the bank's always right. So the bank's on the right side for the memory cue. It makes it easier to remember this as well. Bank is always right, bank's on the right side. So we're going to make some adjustments in this using the C and the SEN, and then we're going to make adjustments to the bank's information using the DO. Plus always first, minus always second. The three things involved with the C are any collections that the bank makes for you. You may have a bank who will agree to collect on your receivables or take care of collecting things for you. When that happens, the bank knows about it right away because it's happening with the bank, but you don't necessarily find out about it. So we would need to add those collections in. Any interest earned from the bank knows about that and records it right away. We don't find out about that interest earned until we get the bank statement in the mail, so we have to add that in because it's an increase in our cash that the bank has recorded there. And then EFTs, any electronic fund transfers coming in, we have to add to our records. Okay. The SEN is the subtraction side on our end. Any service charges that the bank whacks us with, we have to subtract out of cash on our end. The bank has already subtracted it out, so that's something the bank knew about, but we don't. Any outgoing EFTs, any electronic fund transfers that are decreasing our cash, we need to decrease the cash as well. And then any NSF checks. With an NSF check, the bank finds out about it. we had previously, when we deposited the check, we had previously increased our account. But through the clearing process, the bank finds out that the writer of the check did not have the money for us. So we need to subtract that amount back out of our cash because we're not actually getting the money. Even though we deposited the check, we're not getting that money because the person who gave us the check is a bum and they totally bounced that check. The technical term is the technical term is an NSF check. You'll hear the slang term bounce a check used probably more often than not. Then the corrections we need to make on the bank side are quite simple. That's the DOE part of it. Deposits in transit. Anything that we have deposited that the bank has not totally found out about, cleared through the depositing process, and verified that the money is there, they have not put that into our account. So we need to add that in on the bank's records. And then any outstanding checks that we have written that have not come back to our bank has not decreased our cash by that amount. So we've got to decrease the cash balance on the bank's records by the amount of any checks that we've written that the bank has not found out about yet. So let's use this CSENDO to analyze a little bit what we would do in this scenario here. Okay, if we have our books here, this is our side of things, and then this over here is the bank side of things. Again, put our stuff on the left just to keep things in the same order, keep it orderly and organized, and the bank is on the right. Whatever balance we begin with, right, when we first start to reconcile the bank statement, we have a balance that we've got, we're kind of looking at it, right? An NSF check, remember, using the CSEN part of it, an NSF check right here, the N, is going to be subtracted out. And what might be good for you is to pause it here and try to do this on your own before you kind of watch the rest of it. See if you can get this before watching, and then check yourself with it. A service charge, right? Any charges that the bank charges us that we don't know about, we are going to have to subtract, and that's that part of the SEN right there. And then any interest earned. The bank puts interest in our account because we've earned it. They increased the value of our cash, but we have not increased the value of our cash yet. So logically, we need to increase it. On the memory cue side, we also see that we increase it. Then going over, and then after doing that, that gives us our new adjusted bank balance, or adjusted balance in our books. Then we go over and we do kind of the same thing on the bank side now. We take a look at what they have for us as a balance. That's what we start out with. Then we look, okay, what outstanding checks do we have? Remember, those are checks we wrote that the bank does not know about yet. So when the bank gets them, they will end up decreasing our account by those checks, by the amounts for those checks, right? And here we have, using CSENDO, we see that we need to subtract those outstanding checks. Any deposits in transit, money we've deposited or checks that we've deposited the bank doesn't know about, then we have already increased our account on our end of things, but the bank has not added that money into our account yet. So we have to add that in, and using the CSENDO, we see right here that we should be adding that in too. So logically and memory cue wise, that's what we need to do. Once we subtract out the outstanding checks from our starting balance, add in the deposit in transit from our starting balance, we end up with an adjusted bank balance. These two numbers must always, always, always equal. If those two numbers are not equal, something is wrong. There's some sort of mistake, and it needs to be able to be located. Okay? That's pretty much it for the bank statement and reconciling. Remember to use CSENDO as a memory cue, but also understand the process of it, because that's going to help you a whole lot more when you have things thrown at you, that you may not be completely used to dealing with in practice problems and whatnot. You should be able to use your ability to understand it to logic your way through figuring it out. Okay? All right, hope that helped.